Hey everybody, I hope everybody's having a good day. Today our focus is going to be on compound probability, and specifically we're going to talk about creating and using trees. Okay, so compound probability, that is looking at the chances or the likelihood of more than one event. Remember, an event is like flipping a spinner, flipping a coin, rolling a dice, okay? Or it could be real life events. For example, going to the store and picking out what you want to buy, or choosing what type of shoes you want, or choosing your meal at a restaurant, okay? Those are all compound probability events, okay? You are doing more than one thing. Now, we've talked about this a little bit before, and you should have reviewed some of this with the other teachers. When we do compound probability, we have two key words, or and and. If you have not written this down yet, you need to write it down now. When you say the word or, that means you add, okay? So write this down on your paper somewhere, put a star by it, don't forget it, okay? The other word, which is new, is and, okay? When you say the word and, I want you to think multiply, okay? This is the new word we've added this week. What does this have to do with trees? That's a great question. So, we have used in the past lists and tables to represent events, which is great, and they work, and they're awesome. But you have to use a tree if you use two or more. So, for example, you go to a fancy restaurant and you get an appetizer, a meal, and a dessert. That is 1, 2, 3 things. So you have to use a tree to represent them, because for lists and tables, you can only have two things, two events, okay? So trees are for two or more events, okay? Now, when you do any compound probability at all in any situation, we always start by finding the total possible outcome. So out of all the choices I have, what are my totals? Okay, first example. It says, create a tree based on the information given. You're going to flip a coin and spin the spinner. Notice the word and is underlined. So if you do one thing and you do another thing, and means to multiply. So we're going to multiply to get my total possible outcome. So looking at my spinner here, I have blue, red, orange, green, purple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is 5 total possible outcomes, okay? So I spin the spinner and I'm multiplying, okay? And I flip a coin. Now, a coin has heads or tails, okay? That is 2 options, so 2, okay? To get those total possible outcomes, we're going to multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. So 10 is my total possible outcomes. So when I do both of these things, I have 10 chances or 10 ways or 10 answers that I could get 10 outcomes, okay? So why is the tree important? The tree allows us to visualize what could happen. Think about a tree, right? Soil, root, tree trunk, okay? The tree trunk is going to be our starting point. From there, we're going to have branches and then twigs and then sometimes leaves, okay? But we go trunk, branches, twigs, then leaves, okay? So every time you do it, you start here and you get bigger and bigger and bigger. This allows us to see every single thing that could possibly happen. That's why we call them possible outcomes, possible, okay? So start with your trunk. What I want you to do on your paper is you're going to start by putting a little dot. This lesson in particular, you need to take notes. So if you don't have paper out right now, you need to pause the video and go get paper, okay? Okay, so we start with our tree trunk. Then we look at our first event. We flip a coin, okay? That's going to represent how many branches we draw. So we flip a coin. How many options are there? 2. So we draw 2 branches. 1, 2. Okay? And I'm going to label those branches as heads or tails. Now, notice I did not label one of these branches as yellow, because on a coin, you cannot flip a coin and get yellow. That's not how this works, okay? So list your options, heads, tails. Those are your branches. Okay, now we don't just flip a coin. We also spin the spinner. So we're going from our branches to our twigs. So we're going to extend from these out. Now, I'm going to use my spinner. How many options are on my spinner? I have B, blue, R, red, O, orange, G, green, P, purple. Okay, I'm going to abbreviate to save some time. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means I'm going to have 5 branches, 5 twigs coming from each branch. Okay, so I could get heads, and then I could get blue, red, orange, green, purple. Okay, I could get heads, and then I could get blue, red, orange, green, purple. Now, what if I don't get heads? Okay, then I could get tails, and I could still get blue, red, orange, green, or purple. Okay, so heads or tails, those are my first options. I have 2 options. Okay, this column right here represents your coin toss. Okay, now here, notice when I count them, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 outcomes. Okay, and this right here represents your spinner. Notice 10 outcomes. 10 outcomes. Okay, so we start with our tree trunk. We draw out to our first event, so heads or tails. Then from heads and tails, we get bigger, and we draw our next situation, which is spinner. So blue, red, orange, green, purple. Okay, blue, red, orange, green, purple. Now, notice that these just repeated. Okay, that's because if I flip the coin, I get heads. This is my spinner options. But if I flip the coin, I get tails. These are still my spinner options. My spinner didn't change between me flipping the coin back and forth. Okay, so but you have to list them for each item. Okay, if you need to pause and go back, that's okay. Okay, we're going to keep going. We're going to look at a more complicated example this time. Okay, so this time there is a table here. Now, this is not a table like we did a day or 2 ago, okay, where we did it with possible outcomes. That's not. This table is just representing our options, okay? So we're going to a fancy restaurant, and at the fancy restaurant, you get to pick out an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert, okay? So that means that when we choose these, okay, we will have a full meal. So you're eating an appetizer and an entree or a main course and a dessert. Now, what does the word and mean? And means to multiply. So I'm going to take my appetizers. How many appetizers? There's 1, 2, 3. 3 appetizers, okay? And multiply. I'm going to get a main course. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options for the main course. And I get a dessert, okay? How many options are there for the dessert? There is 1, 2, 2. So I'm going to multiply 3 times 5 times 2, which is 30 possible outcomes. Okay? Okay, now I'm going to draw a tree to represent my possible outcomes. So first things first, we start with a tree trunk. Okay, we start with the tree trunk. I might need to, hold on, I'm going to redraw this. I'm going to come over here so I have a little bit more room. Okay, I'm going to start with my tree trunk. Now, my first choices, there are 3 things to choose from. So I'm going to draw 3 branches. Now, those branches are mozzarella sticks, okay, chips and queso, and we could get cheese fries, okay? Those are your first 3 options. Now, after we get your appetizer, then we go to our main course. Now, your main course has 5 options. So that means from each of my branches, I'm going to go to my twigs. So each of my branches gets 5 twigs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It gets a little tight, sorry. It gets bigger. So I'm going to list out my 5 options. What are my 5 options? Chicken, steak, pasta, hamburger, cheeseburger. Okay? So I'm going to list those. I'm going to put CH for chicken, ST for steak, P for pasta, H for hamburger, CB for cheeseburger. Okay? Then for chips and queso, I could also get chicken, steak, pasta, hamburger, cheeseburger. Okay? Then for cheese fries, I have 5 options. I could get chicken, steak, pasta, hamburger, cheeseburger. Okay? So right here, notice my tree got really big and it's getting really tight. Okay? So for each of these, for mozzarella sticks, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. For chips and queso, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. For cheese fries, I have 1, 2, 3, 5 options. Now, in our last example, we only had 2 events. In this one, we have 3. So we're going to go from my tree trunk to my branches to my twigs. And now, from each of these, you're going to go to your dessert. Okay, there's like your leaves here, okay? So, for each of these, I have brownie and cheesecake. 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 Yes, it's going to take you some time, okay? So it's going to take you a second. That's okay. Brownie, cheesecake, brownie, cheesecake, brownie, cheesecake, brownie, cheesecake, brownie, cheesecake. I'm running out of room. Brownie, cheesecake, brownie, cheesecake, brownie, cheesecake, brownie, cheesecake, brownie, cheesecake. Okay, so I know it's really hard to see. Okay, I will attach a picture. I'll put a picture in just a second so you guys can see it. Okay. Okay, but when I look at this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 30 total possible outcomes. Notice that number matches this number. Okay? Okay. Now, Ms. Legg, how do I use this complicated tree to help me solve my questions? That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked it. Okay? So, this one right here, probability of chips and queso. Okay? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at my tree trunk, and I'm going to follow it out. So, I'm going to follow it to where I hit chips and queso. So, chips and queso. And I stop right here. Now, because there's no other qualifiers up here, I'm done. So, if I look at my column, that is one thing I starred out of how many? 1, 2, 3. Okay? So, that tells me 1 out of 3. 1/3. Okay? Now, what about this one right here? Chips and queso, steak, and a brownie. Okay? So what I do is I follow my tree. Okay? So I start at my trunk, and I go to chips and queso. Okay? Then I go to steak, and then I go to a brownie. Okay? You cannot get to that any other way. So, for example, if I went to chips and queso, steak, brownie, okay, I circled one item out of how many? 30. So for me to choose those 3 items, there is a 1 in 30 chance. Okay? Okay, last one, probability of cheese fries and cheesecake. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my cheese fries. Then, from cheese fries, I'm going to look at every single option that has cheesecake in it. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So that means if I were to get this and this, okay, I have a 5 out of 30 chance. Okay? 5 out of 30. Okay. Compound probability is tough. Okay? It's very different than what we've done before. If you need help, you need to reach out to your teacher. Also, you need to go and there's other videos available out there. You can look at my YouTube page or you can go to Khan Academy. They have great resources. Okay, so if you need some extra help with this, go look for it. Okay, please let your teachers know if you have any questions.